So one of my favorite plants is String of Hearts, and they're just such an easy plant, and I feel like an underrated easy plant that some people have quite a hard time with. The great thing about this plant though is even if you are having a hard time with it, you can easily propagate it in several different ways to make a new plant and to kind of have a second go at it. My personal favorite way is water propagation, but I recently did try soil propagation and that worked great for me, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to propagate this plant. So here's my String of Hearts, and it is quite long right now. And that's a bit of a problem because I have it on a bookshelf and it's almost hitting the floor, so I need to trim it up to kind of make more space and not have it drag along the floor, because that's just not what I'm going for. I know people are going to step on it, it just gets in everybody's way, so I'm going to trim it up a bit today and propagate those trimmings. So when you chop these, you want to find a spot with 2 leaves on it, because in the center of those 2 leaves there is a node. As you can see here on the back, that right there is a node. So when you chop them, I like to go quite close to it. You can see there's quite a few spots here where I've propagated it before, and there's a little bit of stem sticking out where there used to be a node and 2 leaves. And I'm gonna make quite a big chop today just because I want to kind of get all the vines back to being quite even, and as you can see, this one right here is quite a bit shorter than the rest of them here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop kind of right about there and then go across and chop about there for every single one of them. So now we have 4 vines that are quite long and look like this, and there's active growth points at the end of every single one of them. So now we're going to chop it up, so there's about 2 nodes per cutting. These ones I am going to water propagate, so I am not concerned about there being leaves on them. In fact, I'm probably going to take quite a few of the leaves off, so there's just the bare nodes to stick into the water. So I usually start then at the tip, and there's 1 node right there. The second node I'm going to cut right below that, so then there's just that 1 cutting there. And then I'm going to take these 2 leaves off up here, so there's just the bare node right there, and then we have these 2 leaves up here to photosynthesize still. So now I have a node down here, and then I have this node up here connected to these 2 leaves, and then the active growth point up here. And I leave these leaves because that way the plant can still get energy, because otherwise it's quite hard for the plant to continue to grow if it's just this new growth point up here that's doing all the work for it. So now I've got a little propagation vase here, and now I'm just going to stick the node into the water. So it's just sitting around all of those, and in a couple weeks you're going to have some roots forming on that. So this is a cutting I put in a couple weeks ago, and as you can see, it's pretty much the same situation. There just wasn't an active growth point at the top here. It was just one of the mid cuttings, and after a few weeks there are quite a lot of roots down here at the bottom, and it's ready to plant. So that's super fun. And after a while, after you leave it, it will start to develop some tubers down here on this node, and tubers are basically just big balls of like energy that roots come out of, and String of Hearts can grow them along their vines if they get mature enough, and they also just grow them down at their nodes where they're getting roots. So after you leave cuttings in water or in soil or whatever, after a while they'll grow strong enough roots that they can grow tubers as well, and that's pretty much when they're at their strongest. So I'm going to do that same exact process for the rest of the cuttings that I just took from that String of Hearts. There's going to be lots of cuttings left over, but I'm planning on potting up some of the ones that I have taken quite a long time ago and that have been sitting in water for quite a long time. So we're going to have a whole new batch of cuttings ready. The other method of propagating that I've only recently tried and like had it work out successfully is soil propagation. And this isn't necessarily cutting and putting them in soil, just because I don't do that with really any of my plants, although I know you can. This is the method where you're trying to make the pot a bit fuller by wrapping around vines into the soil and kind of pinning them in place. I did this a couple weeks back, and I didn't really expect anything from it because I wasn't actively trying to grow a new bit for the plant or anything like that. But I just checked my plant the other day, and there is actually a new active growth point, and I believe there are 2, but only one of them is going to probably continue to grow. The other one's just a new set of leaves. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm not going to do it right now, like actually pin them down and stuff like that, just because I don't really want to have it be even fuller, because I see that some of the leaves are even struggling to fight for some of that energy in the soil already. But I will show you where I pinned them down before and the new growth point that's formed. So here is the top of my pot of my String of Hearts, and a couple weeks ago I took this vine right here and wrapped it around the top a couple times to pin down to create more growth in there. And one of the nodes is pinned down over here. And as you can see, there is a new growth point right here, and it's just a new sprout completely, and it's been growing actually pretty fast. A couple days ago it was just 2 leaves, and now there's like a completely like new sprout coming out too from there. But all I did for that is take a vine, and I'm just gonna show you like what I would theoretically do. So you just take one of these vines and wrap it around the top here, and then I would just grab a bobby pin and pin it close to where the nodes are. So right here there would be a node, and you would just pin it down around that, and then it would sprout some new leaves, hopefully in a couple of weeks. This is one that I find is a bit harder to keep consistently sprouting like new leaves and all that sort of stuff. Like it kind of just does what it wants to. This isn't necessarily like a fail-safe way of propagating because it's only worked like once that I intentionally did it. But I have also just unintentionally done it a lot of times. So I know a lot of people do this, and this is kind of like a hands-off way of propagating because the plant just kind of like takes care of it for you. But it's a very fun way to kind of just like wake up to a surprise maybe one morning because you just tucked a node in there somewhere into the soil. But yeah, those are my 2 favorite ways to propagate string of hearts. It's super, super easy. And you can also just cut the 2 stems off either side of the node and just stick that node in some soil or sphagnum moss or whatever, and it will also grow some roots. So there's just so many ways to do it. And that one with just the 2 leaves in the node is called the butterfly method, if you want to look that up, and you can like find a ton of tutorials on how to do that one. And that would probably be my go-to if I did kind of propagate that way, if I had like propagation boxes and all that sort of stuff, but I don't do it that way, so I just stick to water propagations for the most part. But anyways, if this was helpful for you, please leave a like on the video, and please comment any struggle that you've been having with string of hearts. I'd be happy to help. I mean, mine has been happy for several years now, so it's just kind of an easy one for me, so I can give you any tips that I've used that have worked for me if you just leave those down in the comments below. But like I said, I hope you found this helpful, and please subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.